Hello, good evening. This is Gaming McFitness. I am doing something a little different today. I have been playing um, Fallout 4 on my omnidirectional treadmill, um, and I've been messing with my Apple Watch. Um, what I found is I have a different running sensor on my shoe. I don't know if you can see that. I can't see the screen. Um, It's this Polar Run running sensor, and it works great on the treadmill, but it doesn't work on the omnidirectional treadmill because it takes a few seconds, something between 10 and 20 seconds of continuous running to even start detecting the steps. And that's just not what you do in the Omni treadmill. So I would do it for 3 hours and it would say I burned like 30 calories if I was using this particular foot sensor. So I bought an Apple Watch and that seems to work great, but I don't know how accurate it is. So what I am going to do today is I have the foot sensor and this heart rate sensor on my chest connected to Zwift, which is the virtual running app where you can see my avatar on the main part of the screen. And then I have the Apple Watch connected to this Nike Run Club on the top right, where it says miles, calories, BPM. And so that's just the Apple Watch itself is measuring the beats per minute and the calories and the distance. So I'm going to see how accurate they are versus each other. So I'm going to run on this normal treadmill and see if they come close to being the same calorie burn. The calories will pop up on Zwift. Yeah, now it says today's run on the left. 1. So it says 1 calorie. So we'll see. I'll probably go about a half hour on this. Maybe a little less because I'm a little out of shape on cardio and I have a poker game at 9. So I won't be going any later than a half hour. So again, I do have video game controller built into this treadmill. You can sort of see it, the white PVC pipe. But it's hidden behind the almond milk on this side. I don't need to use that for Zwift, which I'm using now. It's only for playing real video games on this treadmill, which I haven't done in quite a while because I've been doing the omnidirectional treadmill because that's so much funner than playing. It is sort of frustrating to play video games on this treadmill. The ones that seem to work best are exploration sort of mini games, where there's a lot of thinking involved, and like Vanishing of Ethan Carter was a great idea, or a great example of a game that worked well on the treadmill. The normal treadmill that I'm using now, or something like the Shooter. Worked very poorly on the treadmill. I was playing a little hack and slash game called Legend of Zorro, that came out this summer, and that's like a hack and slash mini game, very cartoony. That was decent on this treadmill because it wasn't that hard, but I was getting to the point where it was hard enough that it was starting to become frustrating on the treadmill. So, yeah, I think the treadmill game controller is a moderate success as far as like wanting to play a game and not be frustrated. But the Omni treadmill with the Fallout 4 is a smashing success because I'm like, even when I'm not playing it, I'm sort of yearning to exercise almost because I want to play the game, but I can't play it at like 3 in the morning and piss off my apartment neighbors and whatnot. So that it's just a store-bought Omni treadmill. I have messed around with trying to get accurate nutrition info while I'm using it. So I'm trying to innovate fitness-wise on anything that I do to get good metrics and to play games and stuff at the same time. So yeah, I found out that the foot sensor didn't work, but the Apple Watch seems to work. The calorie count looks like it might be a little high, at least on this normal treadmill. I guess I'll assume that the Apple Watch is as equally inaccurate on the Omni treadmill as it is on the regular treadmill. So if I think that the Apple Watch counts calories 30% too high on this treadmill, I'll assume that it's also doing that on the Omni treadmill. Although I don't really have any way to know which measurement is more accurate than the other one. But the distance seems to be not bad so far. 0.33 miles versus 0.35 miles. So I played, depending on Fallout 4, which I was doing on the Omni treadmill. I think the longest I did it was about 2 hours so far with the Apple Watch, which I just got last week. I think I went maybe 3/4 of a mile according to the Apple Watch. But there's a lot of standing around and shooting, and when I'm indoors in Fallout 4 and I'm looting containers and stuff, it's easier just to use the hand controls to turn around and stuff as opposed to taking 1 or 2 steps on the Omni treadmill. So I try to use the Omni treadmill at least when I'm like wandering around outside in Fallout 4 and like going down a hallway when nothing is happening. But I tend to just stand there in most of the gun battles, and when you're like looting a building. So depending on what I'm doing, it could make a big difference as far as the distance walked. Last time I did do an experiment, like I wanted to see how big the map was. Like how much distance, according to the Apple Watch, would I physically walk to get from one end of the map in the game to the other. And I wasn't all the way to the bottom edge, but I probably went like 2/3 of the way across the map, and that was about not quite half a mile. So if you go all the way from one end of the map to the other and back, it's close to a mile. But you don't typically play the game that way. Yeah, I've been using the Omni treadmill for maybe 5 months. I think I got it in like January. Well, I got it in January, but because I shipped it to my sister's house, because when I ordered it, I hadn't moved yet. So it wasn't actually where I was living until like May. So I only used it like 3 or 4 times up until like May or June. So I've been using it for maybe regularly for like 2 or 3 months. And I certainly haven't lost any weight. My weight is still pretty much where I started. I actually gained, I was down to 220 a few months ago, and then I gained it back. So now I'm back at around 230. I did hurt my ankle. God damn it. That's a spam call. I don't know how to ignore that, so I'll just let it run out. But yeah, the Apple Watch thing. Well, part of the reason I gained some weight back is that I hurt my ankle. And it took like a month and a half to get back to fit. Because I was squatting, doing some woodworking on my rowing machine game controller that I haven't finished yet. That I've talked about a lot on the stream. Which is getting close. I think in a month or so it'll be done for sure. Not for sure, but likely. 'Cause I work on that when I visit my sister, 3-hour drive away, and my mom once or twice a month for a few days. So it's hard to get much done. It takes forever if you're not living where the thing is. Yeah, I hurt my ankle. I was squatting, and when I got up, I felt my foot felt like jelly, and it felt like just something was really fucked up. I actually thought I might have had like a stroke or something, but I don't think I did. But I had what's called foot drop. I did go to the primary doctor and asked them about it, and they thought it was fine. But so my left ankle would like, I couldn't bend it fully, and it would slap my toes on the ground when I walked, and so I'd limp a little bit. And apparently that's due to some, it can be due to diabetic nerve damage, but it can also be due to like a pinched nerve. And so what the doctor thought was that I pinched a nerve in my knee, and that affected the nerve that controlled my ankle. But yeah, it's pretty much better now. But it took like a month and a half. And so I don't know if I can blame that for my full 10-pound weight gain, but that's around about when it happened. Also, I think I should be doing this, like the normal treadmill, in addition to the Omni treadmill. So I should treat the Omni treadmill as like not working out, just playing a game. And I should work out on this or the rowing machine once that's done. The game controller for that, in addition to the Omni treadmill. And also I made some dietary changes and stuff. But yeah, yeah, I'm definitely happy. 0.676 miles, according to the Apple Watch and the foot sensor. They're dead on. The calories is way off though. The BPM is pretty close. Heart rate. I did go through both of them and make sure that they had accurate data for my age, weight, and height, because they use that when they calculate the calories. So they both had the same values for that. I put 230, I think, as the weight for both of them. 6'1" for the height. But yeah, I'm super impressed with the Apple Watch. I don't even know how it calculates the distance, and because I'm on the treadmill here, I'm not swinging my arms really. I guess I am probably rhythmically moving them in some way. But for the Omni treadmill, if I'm playing a shooter, I don't know how it does it, because my arms are holding a gun or whatever. They're not even necessarily doing something rhythmically at all. Although I guess maybe there's like a, when you move your legs, because your legs are like your biggest muscle, maybe there's like a blood pressure change. Like every time you push with your leg, it squeezes the entire circulatory system up a little bit. So maybe it can tell that way. Like every time you push with your biggest muscles, like your thigh muscles, maybe they can detect that in the wrist. Like a heartbeat, but with your legs. Like how you can feel your heartbeat with your wrist. Maybe it can also feel the leg beat. That's probably how it does it. I don't know, I don't care that much to Google it and find out. But yeah, the calorie count is way different. I'm not sure, didn't seem like it was double when I first started, but now it's almost double what Zwift says with the using the heart rate monitor here and then my leg sensor. The leg sensor might know like how big of steps I'm taking, more than the Apple Watch. I'm guessing that the Zwift is probably more accurate, given my guess on how the Apple Watch works. But I don't know for sure. Well, I'm going to assume that since the distance is dead on, unless the Apple Watch secretly found my foot sensor on Bluetooth. I don't think it did though, because I didn't pair it actively or anything. It shouldn't just connect. Like if you're in a gym, how would it know that it's even the same person? So I think it's just doing its own thing without pairing with a leg sensor. I picked in Zwift, this flat track because Zwift does adjust like the distance traveled based on whether you're going uphill or downhill in the game. And I didn't want that to skew the numbers. So I picked this sort of boring track where you just go in a circle. That way the numbers are more accurate to compare the Zwift calories versus the Apple Watch calories. But yeah, I'm damn impressed that it's like 99% accurate. And the treadmill itself says that I can't read it. Yeah, I can't. It says 110 calories on the treadmill itself, which is in the middle of the Zwift and the Apple Watch. 1.25 kilometers maybe, or miles. Speed 4.0. The speed is always higher on the treadmill than it is on Zwift, even though I tried calibrating Zwift several times. Is that miles? It just says 1.28 distance. I'm guessing that's miles. Because the treadmill thinks I'm going faster, so it's going to think that I went farther. So it thinks I went 1.28 miles, whereas Zwift and the Apple Watch, I think I went like 1.15 miles. Even that, those distances aren't, the inaccuracy isn't that bad. So if the treadmill, although I don't remember if I ever entered my weight and height into the treadmill, but if its calorie count is above Zwift calorie count, and it thinks I'm going faster than Zwift does, my guess is that the Zwift calorie count, assuming its speed calculation is more accurate than its calorie would be more accurate also. And the treadmill doesn't know what my heart rate is either. So I think they're all, the treadmill, the Apple Watch, and Zwift with the body sensors, they're all pretty close. So I'm just going to make the assumption that the Apple Watch, maybe the calorie count is like higher than it should be. I'm going to make the assumption that the distance, like when I'm on the Omni treadmill, is pretty accurate. Because, like I said, my foot sensor, the step counter in my shoe doesn't work for the Omni treadmill, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But I'll assume since the Apple Watch seems to work on that, and it also seems to be accurate on this normal treadmill, that it's accurate enough in the Omni treadmill. Maybe I'll mentally lower the calorie count a bit. I don't really log the calorie counts in my, I do track my calorie, my food in the food diary app, but I don't put my workouts in there. And I think Apple Health, if I am using an Apple device, it does count the calories and stuff, but I guess now that I'm always either using the phone with Zwift or the Apple Watch on the Omni treadmill, I guess I'll always have the fitness info going into the Apple Watch or the iPhone, whereas before I got the Apple Watch, the Omni Treadmill wouldn't make it to my phone. So I could maybe start now that I have this Apple Watch, start logging it along with the calories eaten. Makes sense. Now that it's easier to do. And I might just give up on using these sensors and just use the Apple Watch for everything. Because it's easier. It's accurate enough. And it works for everything. I bought this, this is the Apple Watch 7, I think. It's like the latest one. I think a newer one is coming out like in a few weeks. But as of 2 weeks ago, it was the newest one. I could only get it in the red band. I didn't really want the red band. I wanted like the black or gray. So I did buy a different band, but it still shows up as like the area around the watch is still red. But I don't know if I'm going to just wear the Apple Watch all day, because normally my phone is in my pocket if I'm going to the store. What happened there? Yeah, that happens. The Apple Watch mirroring, by the way, it only works. I had to put the iOS beta, like the public beta version of the phone OS and the watch OS on there in order to do this Apple Watch mirroring, to show the watch face on my phone so I could stream it. Because it wasn't in the older OS. It's not, so it's not a feature that's out in general yet. There are some apps, like even this Nike Run Club app that I'm using for the watch, that you can instead of mirroring your watch face through the iPhone settings, which goes over Bluetooth, by the way, and that's probably why it's unreliable. It just disappears every so often. But you can have the Nike Run Club app running on your phone and the watch, like synced up. But then it only works, for some reason, I tried like 8 or 9 apps, and all of them that could sync like that, like the phone and the watch actively while you're working out, they always use the sensors in the phone for running instead of the sensors in the watch, which is fine if you're carrying your phone. Like working out in the real world. But when I'm on the treadmill, I'm not holding the phone. I just have it set on the front of the treadmill. Or on the Omni treadmill, there's no way I could hold the phone and also connect it to my HDMI streaming equipment, because I would spin in circles and the cables would get tangled. So I couldn't get any running app which used the phone and the watch to work for streaming, which was annoying. The only way I could figure out how to do it was to do the running app in watch only mode and then mirror the entire watch display to the phone. That way it would force it to use the Apple Watch running sensors instead of the iPhone running sensors. I'm guessing they did it that way to preserve battery on the Apple Watch, and that might be a rule laid down by Apple, like you must, if you're using the phone and the watch. They have a lot of guidelines for developers. Hi, Shanty. I can't read. The text is too small for the chat. I rearranged this room since the last time I worked out on the treadmill, so I didn't realize that chat's too small for me to read. Because I have the rowing machine there for the rowing machine game controller that I'm building. And so in this tiny little bedroom in this apartment, I have the Omni treadmill, the rowing machine in the middle, and then the treadmill. So they're all packed in this tiny little room. Then I have a mid-sized TV, and then this monitor, which is off right now. I'm not even using it. Yeah, looks like he put some sort of emoji, but I can't tell what it is. But yeah, I'm comparing the Apple Watch sensor on the top right versus the Zwift running app sensors, which are using the blood pressure thing here on my chest and then a sensor in my shoe. Now I want to see how accurate they are, one versus the other one. And they're pretty accurate on distance, like 1.7 versus 1.76 miles. But the calorie count is way off. This Apple Watch is new for me, so I'm trying it out. This is a way of figuring out how well it works. And it's also the only way I could get calorie count info on my omnidirectional treadmill, because the sensor in my shoe would go into sleep mode if I stopped walking at all. And so the start and stops of the video game on the Omni treadmill would make it useless. It'd say if I played 3-4 hours, it'd say I burned 26 calories or some stupid shit. Because the sensor was most of the time going back into sleep mode. But the Apple Watch seems to work great on the Omni treadmill. And it seems to be fairly accurate on the normal treadmill, so I'm thinking it's good. Yeah, that was the purpose of today, is to test the accuracy of the Apple Watch. I think the calorie count's probably high, but other than that, it's pretty damn good. I'm happy with it. Yeah, I don't know what else to talk about. I'm pretty much close to done with the workout. I have a poker game at 9. It is, 8:46? I'll go until 2 miles and then I'll call it done. But yeah, after the holiday, I always get Labor Day and Memorial Day mixed up. Labor Day and Memorial Day. But after the holiday weekend, I'm going to go back to my sister's house where my workshop is and try to finish that rowing machine video game controller that I'm building so I can play video games on the rowing machine. I live in an apartment, so I can't do like woodworking here. So I do it at family's house because my sister has an actual house. But it's been like almost a year since probably 10 months since I started building that damn rowing machine game controller. Just because of laziness, and I didn't want to work in her garage in the cold Michigan winter when it's like below freezing. So I didn't do anything on it for a few months in the winter. And it's like, well, shit. It just takes forever to get anything done. So yeah, my goal is to try all these different fitness machines and play video games while I'm working out. The one after the rowing machine game controller will be a jump rope game controller. I've already bought some of the tiny little electronics to fit in the jump rope handle. But for that one, I might try to learn how to use a 3D printer to 3D print the controller. I actually bought a 3D printer last Black Friday last fall, but I didn't use it in the winter in my sister's garage because I didn't think it would work in the winter when it's freezing out. And then my sister said, "Oh, don't do it at my house because I'm afraid it'll burn down the house." So I haven't even turned it on. She said I could do it outside, but I think the wind is going to mess with it. So I'd have to do it outside on like a non-windy day, or I'll have to set up like a tent. I do have a tent, like a giant, semi-giant tent thing. And then that might be a fun project actually. Set up a tent and set up my solar panels and my giant solar, what do they call it? Solar generator. And actually, I don't know if that'll run the 3D printer. I might have to run a giant extension cord. That might be a fun thing to do in the fall if I finish the treadmill game control or the rowing machine game controller build. But yeah, I think that'll be dumb. Try to play video game like Fallout 4 while jumping rope, but I don't know, maybe it'll work for some things, like Mortal Kombat or something where you only play for like a minute at a time. But yeah, this is Gaming McFitness. Thanks for joining me, Shantae, colon with the weird emoji that I can't read with my bad eyes. Keep gaming, keep exercising. If you want to make exercise less boring, try doing both at the same time. Good night. And I have to walk over here to power it off.